We're going to ask the question because Ohio State keeps giving us reasons to ask the question. Has Michigan broken Ohio State? Coming up next. Welcome to the 20-minute show on Michigan football at the Voice of College Football, where we make one outstanding point for every minute of video. My name is Cliff. His name is Mac. Let's get into this. Now, as you all know, Michigan and Ohio State played the game Saturday, the 120th edition of the game. If we're counting games since 1918, when both teams were in the Big Ten at the same time, you've got a series record of 49 wins for Michigan, 52 wins for Ohio State, and 4 ties, which for you kids is something they used to do in football. And I have to go over these stats to just show how incredible of a win this actually was on Saturday for Michigan. Michigan was unranked. Ohio State is the number 2 team in the nation. Michigan is 6-5 on the season. Ohio State is 10-1. The FPI gave Michigan a 7.8% chance to win this game. The spread was 20.5 points in Ohio State's favor. The over-under was 40.5 points. Okay, that's how it started. Here's how it's going. The majority of the points came in the first half. It's 10-10 going into halftime. In the second half, Michigan was the only team to score. You heard that right. Ohio State scored no points. A big 0. The big Ziggy, Stugatz, a goose egg in the second half. Michigan had 17 fewer yards of offense, twice the penalties for twice the yardage. But here's the real kicker. Michigan won this game on the ground with 96 more yards than the Buckeyes, 96 more rushing yards than the Buckeyes. Not to mention, this game was played in Columbus. Now, I was expecting a lazy Saturday afternoon. I could just watch this game and enjoy it because I wasn't really expecting a lot from Michigan. And then what happened. We got something which has to be this generation's version of the miracle. You remember that Olympic hockey game in 1980 when the United States played the Russians and won, and they absolutely should not have won, but they did, and they called it the miracle? Do you believe in miracles? In fact, given the money spent by Ohio State to win this game, I think Herb Brooks has proven right yet again. It's not about the best players. It's about getting the right players. Mac, that's what I think. Explain this to me. Did Michigan win or did Ohio State lose this game? Because as you know, it ended 13-10, only 3 points scored in that second half by the Michigan Wolverines. What happened?
Yeah, I'm still in shock. It still doesn't feel real. I was telling my wife today that it doesn't feel real, that it feels like we're kind of in a dream, that it feels like the entire game was just kind of like that Darren Aronofsky film, Mother. It's a decent film, worth watching once, I think. Right. But you walked out of the theater just kind of having felt like you just were dreaming for 2 hours. Okay. And that's kind of how it felt watching this game. Did Michigan win the game or did Ohio State lose the game? Both. I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from Michigan's defense. Wink Martindale called a great game. I mean, his adjustment to the college game has been phenomenal these past couple of weeks. They came out of the bye week and just they've been on fire. They've been on fire in second halves, especially. They've been really good. But the thing is, I mean, every bit of media that I've consumed about this game that has recapped the game, that has talked about what happened, all of them have said one common theme. No one can make heads or tails of the Ohio State play calling. It was bizarre. It was bonkers. I remember watching the game actually getting a little bit frustrated because I was kind of thinking to myself, I think Michigan's going to win this game, but they're only going to win it because Ryan Day refuses to let Howard throw the ball. And that's really what it was. I mean, Joel Klatt had said on his show, I thought this was interesting, actually. Joel Klatt said on his show that it seemed like Ryan Day didn't trust Will Howard because Will Howard was having some trouble seeing the field and making good decisions with the ball. And you saw that with the 2 interceptions. The first interception, I mean, Amir Hall was right there. How did he not see that? That was a bizarre throw. The second interception, I think he was trying to get it to Emeka Ibuka. I can't remember exactly. But he threw it 3 yards behind him. It was an easy pick. Those throws made no sense. They were just, both of them were fairly bonkers. And I think it was that second one that came on a drive in which it looked like Ohio State was headed for the end zone. I mean, it looked like they had finally figured something out and they were getting the ball moving. And then they turn it over. I mean, it was at that point that I just kind of thought, I think Michigan's going to win because of how much Ohio State is self-destructing right now. But anyway, I mean, Joel Klatt was saying it was because of the fact that Ryan Day didn't trust Will Howard with the ball that they decided to run between the tackles right into the teeth of the Michigan defense. And I can understand Joel Klatt's point there. And I think he mentioned this too, that it was the last drive of the first half where Ohio State scored the touchdown, that they moved with tempo. And Michigan's defense didn't really have an answer for that. And to be honest, they've never really had an answer for up-tempo offenses. I mean, you saw that 2021 versus Michigan State. I mean, yeah, Kenneth Walker was an inspiration, but you know, I mean, they moved with tempo, and Michigan had nothing. There was nothing they could do. That's happened a couple of times over the past couple of years. Michigan has just never really had an answer for up-tempo offenses. But I guess for whatever reason, Ohio State didn't want to go back to that offense. And that's what's bonkers about this whole thing, is that even if Ryan Day didn't trust Will Howard to throw the ball, there was a scheme that there was a way they could have schemed it so that Will Howard could get some easy passes. They could have done a lot more to help out Will Howard. Running Will Howard was a choice, especially after taking that hit, and it really looked like he was concussed. It really did. Mm-hmm. And maybe that played into it too. I really don't know, but I mean, they felt comfortable enough to put him back into the game. You would think that they would feel comfortable enough to still let him throw the ball around more than he did. But I don't know. I guess it is what it is, but I think it's because Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. I think Michigan is in Ryan Day's head. I think that he can't get over it. The pressure of this game is just different, and he cannot meet the challenge.
Well, and okay, so speaking of Michigan getting into Ryan Day's head, now, so a lot of our Ohio State friends on Twitter and on YouTube and that, they're talking about how, you know, Michigan didn't really improve, that Ohio State just played bad. You know, like you said, the bad play calling, Ryan Day not trusting Will Howard. And I guess in that case, it almost seems worse. If you want to claim that Michigan hasn't improved, and I think they have. I think since that Indiana game, you know, from game one to the Indiana game, Michigan was struggling. The Indiana game actually showed improvement, but not enough because they lost. But then that Northwestern game was like Michigan of 23 or 21 or 22. One of the Michigans of the last 3 years. That's what that game looked like. It looked fantastic. So coming into this game, I really believe that they were starting to figure something out. Something was starting to gel. Wink Martindale was finally connecting with the players. Even Kurt Campbell, I think, is connecting with the offense. I mean, the offense wasn't great, but I mean, they got more points than Ohio State did, so they did something right.
Yeah.
But to that end, if Ryan Day was playing if Ohio State even wasn't playing up to par, and if Ryan Day wasn't trusting Will Howard, he trusted him against Oregon, he trusted him against Penn State, he trusted him against Indiana. Why not trust him against Michigan?
He didn't get hit against Oregon and Indiana and Penn State. He got hit against Michigan. That's it. That's my thing. That's what I'm thinking, is after that hit from Makari Page, I mean, Will Howard did not look okay. So I'm wondering, maybe there's a concussion issue there, in which case, if there is, he shouldn't have come back into the game. That was a very bad call. I think he probably still represented their best chance at winning over, you know, Devin Brown. I think if Devin Brown came in at quarterback, he's going to throw 2 more interceptions. Michigan probably could have won by 2 scores if they wanted to. But, and that, I don't know, that might be a bit dramatic.
Yeah, that might be a stretch.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I guess the point is that I think it could have been worse. I think Michigan probably could have actually sealed the game up a lot sooner. Maybe that's just the point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But that's the only thing I can think of is that Will Howard got hit, was a little bit concussed, wasn't seeing the field right, and so they had to figure out a way. They had to run the ball. Now, but the other question is, why not stretch the field? Why not run sweeps? Why, jet sweeps? Why not? I mean, Jeremiah Smith's fast. Emeka Ibuka, I think, is pretty fast. I mean, why didn't they do that? Quinshon Judkins is fast. Why didn't they run to the outside?
Yeah, I think it was. I'm not sure if it was the pregame show or the announcers. I don't remember now, but somebody, they were saying either all Michigan or all Ohio State has to do is run to the outside, and they run away with this game from play one. And according to the announcers, they never did.
And it makes no sense. Now, I'll address the Michigan didn't improve. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways, they didn't. I think that the defense has just straight up improved by themselves since that bye week I mentioned. Wink Martindale's adjustments to the college games has finally happened. It happened, I think. Actually, I think you could make an argument for Michigan State, Illinois. Illinois, they looked really good. Michigan State, they looked pretty good. Oregon, I know Oregon scored a couple of times late. I think that score actually makes that game look a little worse than it was. Because, I remember watching that Oregon game thinking, Michigan's going into the fourth quarter and they were only down, 2 scores, I think it was. And it just kind of felt like, maybe they were still in it. I never expected them to win that game, but it didn't feel like they were just, getting demoralized at that point.
Right.
So whatever. The Indiana game is the Indiana game. I don't know what to make of that one. That one's purely on the offense. The defense did everything they could to keep them in that game, but then just everything clicks against Northwestern. So the defense has been improving, but against Ohio State, did the defense improve more? I don't really think so. I think that they've just been playing that well for a couple of weeks now. So they're finally back up to that. I'm not going to say elite status just yet, but they've looked really good the past couple of weeks, and that continued against Ohio State. The offense is as the offense is. Or maybe the offense is as the offense does. I don't know. But the offense did actually technically improve. They improved in the running game. Kalel Mullings had 116 yards rushing. That's Michigan's highest rushing count since the the Minnesota game, where Kalel Mullings had 111 yards. Michigan has a grand total of 4 games this year where they ran over 100 yards on, where one player has over 100 yards on an opposing defense. And Ohio State is one of those 4 teams. So they improved in that way. I mean, the offensive line was winning the battle of the line of scrimmage. Not emphatically, but it was enough. But even so, even with the improvement in the running game, Ohio State still should have won the game. So like I was saying, I think it's a combination that Michigan improved in the run game a little bit here, and it happened to be enough to carry them to victory. I mean, Michigan potentially doesn't win the game if Kalel Mullings doesn't pick up that 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, where it looked like he was going to get stopped for a yard loss and then just goes around everybody and takes off for 30 yards. Yeah. Like that was a huge play. That right there, the game was won at that point. All Michigan had to do was sit on the ball and then kick the field goal. So right. But that's the running game, and that's Kalel Mullings. He's a beast, and that's improvement in the running game. The passing game, I mean, Davis Warren completed a couple of clutch third down balls, and I mean, that one to Peyton O'Leary, there was nothing there, and he stuck with it. So people want to give Davis Warren a ton of crap. I'm not saying he played great. I'm saying he played good enough, but I'm also saying that he is one of, a short list of Michigan quarterbacks that went into Columbus and beat Ohio State. So give him his flowers, man.
Yeah. And that's got to be, I think, key moments in this game. You're looking at Davis Warren, you're looking at Will Howard. I think they played, and I'm not looking at the stats right now, but based on production, turnovers, Davis Warren and Will Howard played at the same level. Fair enough?
No.
I mean, without looking at the stats, I mean, you've got 2 interceptions thrown by Davis Warren. You've got 2 interceptions thrown by Will Howard.
But you got to look at the stats, though, because Davis Warren had 62 yards on 9 completions.
Okay.
That's not good. That's
No,
that's not that's
and
not
like you
good.
said, they had fewer 17, 20 yards fewer on offense, and most of Michigan's offense came on the ground. But
Yeah.
it just didn't seem to me that Will Howard was running circles around Davis Warren as we expected. But that all goes back to what you were saying. Ryan Day didn't trust Will Howard to do this.
Right.
The other key point in this game that I think this game is going to be remembered for is the fact that what's Jaden Fielding, the kicker for Ohio State, misses to the right, misses to the left on two critical field goals, and then Savada is nailing them from 50 yards out. Yep. Granted, he only had 2 in this game, but just phenomenal. Like it's just amazing to me that Savada, that last field goal, all of the pressure was on Savada. I mean, that was a game-winning field goal to win all game-winning field goalers. I mean, he's Moody 2.0. He's just incredible, and yeah. I don't see how you can even talk about this game without talking about Savada. That's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm like you said. I watched the replays on this yesterday. I watched some replays on this today, and I'm still like, how did this happen?
I know.
It was just phenomenal.
It was, yeah, and yeah. I mean, Zavada definitely deserves his flowers and all that too. I mean, he's been what did Gus Johnson say? Zavada-matic. I think is what it was. Yeah, I think, yeah. And it's true. Yeah, it's true. He was really good yesterday. He's been great all season long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, since you mentioned Gus Johnson, I got to give a shout out to him because he's been getting a lot of grief for, and granted, he probably said a couple of things there he shouldn't have said. But at the end of the day, you got to remember, Gus Johnson actually is a Michigan fan. I watched Isaiah Hole's video. He's defending Gus Johnson, saying, Gus Johnson is really actually very excited. He saw Gus after the game, and he was really happy for Michigan. And I guess he kind of, I don't know, maybe regretted saying those couple of things. I don't know for sure. But at any rate, all the people who are getting on Gus Johnson's case, I would cut him some slack because he's fantastic. I love the guy. I mean, he's just a fantastic game caller.
Well, and I'll give him a little bit of slack. What he does is not easy, I mean, you gotta be quick on your feet, and even doing something like this, if we want to minimize the number of edits we have to make in a video, we've got to make sure that our brains are functioning properly. And what he's doing is live. Yeah. So he's when he said millions, right, when he said that bit about like we didn't cheat this time, like even I was like, Gus.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if that was almost like this is what the rivals are saying against Michigan or something like that. I mean, I can understand how the wheels may have turned in his head to get to that statement and not mean it the way it sounded to a lot of Michigan fans. But
right, yeah, I think that was probably one of those things that sounded better in his head, but didn't come out right.
Right.
Should we touch on the fight real quick? I know we're 19 minutes in.
Oh, that's all right. I want to say a couple of things, and I think this leads into our next question because in that fight during that Jack Sawyer was. I was thinking he was on Lost, but no, that was Jack Sawyer too, wasn't it? Anyway, doesn't matter. So Jack Sawyer's out there on the field, sort of scream crying at Michigan. Your season is over. What are you doing? So Michigan's season is essentially over. They've got a bowl game to go to, so they get some extra practice there, hoping for a Motor City Bowl so we can go see that game. But where does Ohio State go from here? They've lost out on the Big Ten championship. They're going to have a lower seed in the CFP. I doubt that they'll miss the CFP. I'm sure they'll still be in it. So where do they go from here?
Yeah, I mean, they'll still be in the playoffs for sure. They're going to get a lower seed. I saw somewhere some people are thinking probably somewhere around 8, somewhere in the 8 to 10 range. Does that mean that they're hosting a game then? That kind of comes into question because before the Michigan loss, it was Ohio State was likely to, a lot of people are saying they're likely to beat Michigan, beat Oregon, and then they'll be hosting a playoff game at Columbus. That's definitely in question now for sure. I mean, where does Ohio State fall? I saw that they fell to 8 in the AP poll. I think they fell to 8 or 10 in the coaches poll. I would expect something similar in the CFP. I mean, that's a bad loss, dude. I mean, there's nothing that you can take from this other than that was just an abysmal effort by Ohio State, and Ryan Day. His coaching ability in this game is questionable to say the least.
Yeah. Well, yeah, setting the rivalry aside, I mean, again, it's number 2 Ohio State losing to unranked Michigan with a 21-point spread.
Yeah. And it got up to 23 at one point.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, so, but where does Ohio State go from here? They can't have a first round playoff exit, or else I think Ryan Day's done.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. They absolutely cannot lose in the first round. And I don't think that they will. There are a lot of people saying that, Ohio State, like this was a mental issue for Ohio State. This game, Michigan is in their heads. They're still fully capable of winning the national championship. Now, depending on what Will Howard's concussion status is at the time of the playoffs, which he's got plenty of time to heal, as long as it wasn't severe, he's got time to heal. Depending on what his concussion status is, though, if he's still injured, if their offensive line is still injured, I could see a world where Ohio State does end up going to the national championship. I could also see a world where they lose in the first round. It's just, I think they're kind of all over the place right now, at least in terms of that Michigan game. I got to wonder if maybe that Michigan game shot their confidence so much that now they'll go into the playoffs and just be like, who even are we? Especially if Ryan Day doesn't let Will Howard throw the football. Right.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. If they lose in the first round, I don't want to say that they're going to fire Ryan Day, because we all know the mess that creates, especially in their current situation. But if he loses round 1, there's no way he isn't being watched critically every single day by the AD and the administration there at Ohio State.
I mean, there are already people close to the program saying that they wanted him gone yesterday.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, there's just no way he gets through this season. If my thought was that every win in the playoffs gets him another year. And then if he wins the Natty, he's writing his own check. But like we said, if he loses in that first round, he's playing after that next year. Every game he's playing for his job. He has to be.
I would think so.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't think Ohio State is going to let this go on for too much longer. I mean, they themselves say this game is their season, and now they've lost it 4 years in a row.
But the question, the problem with it though is that, I mean, his record is 56-1 against unranked teams. Now I understand that one is against Michigan, and that sucks for them for sure. But the guy is a phenomenal coach. He just has a Michigan problem.
But now in the age of NIL though, the way you pull in players is with that NIL money, with that national championship status, even like a conference championship status. You have to have it in order to bring those guys in, because those guys, not only they want that money, they want to be developed. And so that's it. Only the NIL has only increased pressure on coaches to win games. They have to now, to make sure that money is well spent.
I mean, they have to, because otherwise the donors aren't going to give them the NIL money for sure.
And then they won't be able to pull in the players, and then it's just that whole vicious circle. They're going to get worse. They won't get the not right players. They won't get enough money. They won't get the right players. They'll get worse.
But I don't think Ohio State's not going to have that issue. The issue that Ohio State would end up having is if Ryan Day just never figures out the Michigan problem, and they end up firing him, and then they pull in Nebraska after Bo Pelini. Like, they just end up in obscurity for a couple of years. Then they'll start to have an issue. But as long as Ryan Day is the head coach, they're going to beat everybody else. They might lose to a top 5 team here or there. Michigan's going to be back in the mix for a playoff next year. So we'll see how that goes. The game's in Ann Arbor. So it doesn't look good for Ohio State at this point, especially with the players that Michigan's pulling in, rumored through the portal and in their recruiting class. But if Ryan Day all of a sudden figures out the Michigan problem, then everything's fine at Ohio State. Everything's back to normal. But if they overreact based on this one game, and I get it, it's a bad game, but and I don't want to give Ohio State fans, any good vibes, or I don't want to give them any. I don't want to calm them down. I don't want to make them feel better because I don't like Ohio State. But But you shouldn't fire Ryan Day. He's an incredible coach. They're 10-2, and the 2 losses, only one of which is just inexplicable, but it's the rivalry game, so it also kind of makes sense. It doesn't. Michigan's just in his head, but as soon as he figures that out, Ohio State's fine.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being in Ohio State's head, what are your thoughts on that fight? It looked pretty nasty. Some guys got pepper sprayed. Some guys got punched. What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean the pepper spraying is insane. I think that they're investigating that actually. I don't know what the term is, where they go too far to stop players or stop people from doing things. I don't know. Okay. I think they're investigating that though. That's crazy. I think it was just Michigan players that got maced. I could be wrong about that though.
No, I think it was Ohio State players too.
Oh, did they? Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. But that doesn't make sense. I mean, just pull the guys off of each other and I don't know. I say that, but I'm going to contradict myself because I was also thinking about it earlier. Like, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not exactly a small guy, but compared to some of these football players, I mean, they're massive. And if I saw Jack Sawyer coming at me angry, I'd probably want some pepper spray, maybe a taser. I don't know. So I guess actually I kind of get it, but I don't know. Yeah. They're officers of the law, so they should be. There should have been more of them too. In terms of the fact that the fight happened. People are saying that planting the flag was disrespectful. Yeah, that's kind of the point. If Ohio State didn't like it, they probably should have beat them on the field. The most fight that we saw from Ohio State all day was after the game ended.
Right.
So yeah, is it disrespectful? Yes, but that's the point. As an Ohio State fan, would they be happy that Ohio State responded the way they did to Michigan planting the flag? Yeah, kind of. I can't remember if it was Joel Klatt or Josh Pate that said, I think it was Joel Klatt. Josh Pate kind of said a similar thing, but Joel Klatt said that, the fight was unfortunate. You don't necessarily want it to happen, but you get why it happened. College football, despite NIL and all that, it's the thing that sets it apart is from the NFL is the fact that it's a very emotionally driven game. He mentioned that it's college football where you can say like, I am a Wolverine or I am a Buckeye or I am a Bronco. Like it wasn't until I went to Western Michigan that I started giving a crap about Western Michigan football. And now whenever they win, I'm like, yeah, I'm a Bronco. And then when they lose, I'm like, guys, you got to fire the coach. This is insane. Like back, I don't remember if you remember 2011, we were at Buffalo Wild Wings. Maybe it was, I don't know, it might have been 2010, but we were at Buffalo Wild Wings watching a Western Michigan game, and Michigan was laying the wood on them. And I was like, yeah, crush them. And now I'm like, no, I kind of want Western to win. Like, so it becomes a part of your identity. And so this, when Jack Sawyer says they're not planting a flag on my field, like, yeah, I kind of get it. Like I love the emotion and we want college football to stay an emotional game, like Joel Klatt says. So, if that's the case, then you can't get mad when players then start to show emotion. You don't want anybody to get hurt. If anybody gets hurt, then punishments need to be levied for sure. But
they were.
They were, yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's an emotional game, so you get it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's leave it right there. What do you think about what we think? Leave a comment and let us know. If you loved that game Saturday, let us know. If you hated that game Saturday, cry about it. You can find us on X. My handle is Dog Team Rivalry. That's DAWG Team Rivalry. And Mac is B1G Team Rivalry. That's Big Ten Team Rivalry. Stop by, give us a follow, have a conversation. We love to talk to you. If you want more great analysis on college football, check out all the shows right here on Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football. You can also catch us live on the Big Ten Team Rivalry show Wednesday nights for the next 2 weeks. Right here on YouTube. Mac, take us out.
This is Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football. 4 in a row, baby.
Go Blue.
Go Blue.